And so this particular photo was actually taken at a site called Mesa Arch. And so that's a very well-known site. It's probably one of the most photographed sites in the whole park. And so a lot of times you see pictures of Canyonlands and you see this big rock arch that's kind of overhanging the cliffs, and people are normally shooting the arch as you're looking through to this scene behind. And so because it's a popular site, it normally can be reasonably busy as well. But that's where I took this picture. I was just, I thought that this was a beautiful scene, as everybody else has done, because they've taken photographs of it. But I kind of wanted to do something a little bit different, because everybody takes a picture of the rock arch looking through. And they've done that in the morning time for sunrise, for sunset. They've done it at nighttime when you can see the stars above. And so I tried to do something a little bit different. And instead of using the arch kind of as a frame, I wanted to use it more as a window to look through and see, when you're not looking at the arch, what is it that you see beyond? Because it's not just the arch that is incredible, it's the entire landscape. And so when I did that, your focus becomes more, these kind of candlestick buttes here, and you see like these jagged cliffs and the shadows of the clouds, and the La Salle mountain range in the background, and the clouds. And so I thought that that was kind of a more interesting way to look at the landscape rather than looking at one single rock archway. So it's difficult a lot of times to photograph a scene and make it appear like it does when you're looking at it with your own eyes. And so I was really trying my best to not only take a unique shot of the Mesa Arch, which has been photographed thousands of times, but also take it in a way that kind of makes you feel like you're standing here on this cliff looking out into this vast landscape. So I used to be a Pentax user. I'm now a Nikon user, but at the time that this picture was taken, I was using my Pentax K7 camera. And the lens that I was using was a Sigma 17 to 50 millimeter 2.8 EX DC HSM lens. That's a mouthful. And I was using specifically that lens because of its wide angle ability. So I really wanted to kind of take in the vastness of the whole scene, which you're really only able to do with a wide angle lens in this case. So I was using the wide angle lens, and this photo was actually shot at 38 millimeters, so it wasn't as wide as my camera lens could go, but I also wanted to kind of make sure that I wasn't getting people in the shot, and that I was getting kind of like a clean shot of the bottom of the arch here. So this is actually the bottom of the archway that then eventually goes overhead. So I really wanted the focus to be looking through that. And so, as I usually do, my camera was set on aperture priority, which allows me to adjust the aperture and therefore the depth of field of the shot. And so I set that on f5, and because that was such a shallow depth of field, that allowed me to blur this whole foreground here. And when I focused on these two buttes here in the middle, everything else from them behind and a little bit in front then was in focus. So then it really helped to get this idea that you are there in person, standing in front of this, simply because the entire image is not all in focus. So because I was using a relatively wide aperture and it was bright outside, therefore my shutter speed was 1/4000th of a second, which is really fast. And that also then enabled me to not worry about hand holding it. So a lot of photographers, and myself included, you use a tripod in a lot of instances to make sure your shots are perfectly crystal clear. And in this case, it just simply wasn't an option because there were a lot of people around. You know, I had a limited amount of time getting to be in front of the arch, so I really needed to get my shots, move around, see what views I wanted, and having that fast of a shutter speed enabled me to handhold it and to get a crystal clear image. And then lastly, my ISO was 400, so that's just pretty a normal ISO for middle of the day. And so at that low, you don't get a lot of noise that interferes with the photo, and I didn't really need that because it was bright outside.